Good afternoon, everyone.
First of all, let us give thanks to God who has given us all the blessing and hope so that we can meet at today's podcast. Let also not forget to do salawat and salam to our great Lord the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
Before starting the program, it would be nice for me to introduce myself first. My name is Rachel Valencia, who will be the host for today's podcast with my partner.
I am Alia Heranisa Firdiani from 11 Pioneer who will be hosting today's podcast as well.
To the Honorable, the Principal of Senior High School of Plus PGRI Cibinong, Mr. Dr. Agus Rohiman, MPD. To the Honorable, the Principal of Senior High School of Plus PGRI Regular Cibinong, Mr. Dr. Iwan Cakrayana, STMSI. To the Honorable, the Judges, Ms. Ika Yuniawati, SPD. To the Honorable, all of the English teacher, and to the Honorable, all teachers of Senior High School of Plus PGRI Cibinong. Also to the Honorable parents who are watching this podcast and beloved friends who are watching and participate in this podcast. Welcome back to Pesat Literation.
Hello everyone, back again on the Pesat Literation Show podcast. How are you all? Hope you all in happy state.
Before we start, do you all know what is Pesat Literation is?
I don't think everyone knows what Pesat Literation is. Can you explain to the audience what Pesat Literation is, Rahel?
Of course, Alia. I will explain what Pesat Literation is to all of you. So, Pesat Literation is a podcast that shows about presenting a book that has been read by Senior High School of Plus PGRI Cibinong student. The books are varied. Can be novel, education, sport, health, physiology, history, and many more.
That sounds very useful. I'm very curious about the book that will be presented by the group on today's podcast.
That's right, Ayla. I'm also curious about that too.
So today's podcast starts with a presentation from Group 1 who will present a book with the title
The Origin of Anti-Slavery Constitutionalism in America. So without any further ado, let's start today's podcast. So please welcome Group 1!
Greetings everyone, my name is Muhammad Firan Ghazi and beside me is my partner.
I'm Rashid Amudutubol.
And today we're going to presentate our own book in which called The Origin of Anti-Slavery Constitutionalism in America. Now, for the first through 5 chapters of the book, in which we decided to title The Foundations of Anti-Slavery Constitutionalism, will be read by me. The first 5 chapters lay the groundwork for anti-slavery constitutional thought in America. The Somerset v. Stewart case of 1772 provided an interesting key legal precedent, inspiring abolitionists to argue that slavery lacked legal legitimacy in the U.S. Despite revolutionary ideals promoting liberty and anything else, slavery persisted due to political and economic compromises. The Constitutional Convention saw debates over slavery, resulting in the 35th Compromise and also the protections for the slave trade. Early abolitionist efforts, including free black activism and legislative reforms, made gradual progress. However, the Missouri Crisis of 1819 to 1821 deepened sectional tensions, highlighting the constitutional struggle over slavery's expansion. The next chapters 6 to 10 will be explained by my friend Rashid Amiruddin Tumbol.
Okay, thank you, Aziz. Next slide.
Next slide.
Okay. The rise of pro-slavery counter-arguments and radical abolitionism. As northern abolitionists, sentiment grew in the 1820s till 30s. Southern leaders mounted a pro-slavery defense, arguing for federal protection of slavery, while the American colonization society promoted black resettlement in Africa. Radical abolitionists in the 1830s, led by groups like the American Anti-Slavery Society, demanded immediate emancipation. Legal disputes over fugitive slave laws and federal power escalated. Moderates sought reform through the Liberty Party, advocating against slavery expansion, while radicals like William Lloyd Garrison treated the Constitution as a pro-slavery document, debating division within the anti-slavery movement. And the next chapter will be present by my friend.
Right, next Next slide, please. Good. Chapters 11 through the end will be explained thoroughly by me. We decided to title these set chapters as Radical Constitutional Anti-Slavery and the Free Soil Movement. Radical anti-slavery constitutionalists like Lysander Spooner argued that slavery was indeed unconstitutional, based on natural law of the humankind, and the original intent of the Constitution itself. As the concept of abolitionism grew, divisions emerged between those pursuing political solutions and those rejecting participation in a government compromised by slavery. Legal battles such as the Prigg against Pennsylvania Bill in 1842 highlighted the judiciary's conflicting role in the anti-slavery fight. The Free Soil movement gained traction especially in the 1840s, opposing slavery's expansion into new territories, especially after the Wilmot Proviso of 1846. By 1848, tensions escalated as the Free Soil Party challenged both major political parties, while the Southerners increasingly feared restrictions on slavery as a threat to the American Union. The next set will be explained by my friend Rashid.
And the next subchapter is the collapse of compromise and the road to the world. The Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 spurred fierce abolitionist resistance through jury nullification, personal liberty laws, and direct action. The Kansas-Nebraska Act 1854 overturned previous compromises, leading to violent conflicts over slavery expansion. The Dred Scott decision, 1857, further inflamed tension by ruling that African Americans had no constitutional rights and Congress could not ban slavery in the territories. The Republican Party emerged advocating for containing slavery as seen in the Lincoln Douglas debate of 1858. Lincoln's 1860 election led to Southern section with combating constitutional interpretation on secession and federal authority, ultimately bringing the nation to civil war.
Right. The next thing will be explained by me. The final outmost of the chapter, the epilogue of the book, in which we decide to name it The Legacy of Anti-Slavery Constitutionalism. Anti-slavery constitutionalism laid the foundation for the Reconstruction Amendments, the 13th, 14th, and also the 15th Amendments, which abolished slavery and sought to ensure civil rights. However, the fight for racial equality continued well beyond the Civil War, shaping legal and political struggles in the modern era. And as such, that concludes all the materials that us, as the first presenters, have to offer. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We'll be giving control back to the sermon master.
Okay, thank you, Group 1. So, from the presentation, we can know that the struggle against slavery in America was deeply intertwined with constitutional debates and political compromise. A very interesting book, right?
That's right, Alia. I really want to read that book too.
So, we have finished watching Group 1's presentation, but we are not finished. After this, we will watching the second group performance and there will be a question and answer session.
Yes, of course. So don't go anywhere. And for all of you who are still curious about the content of the book and want to ask a question, you are very welcome to ask question in the Q&A session.
So we are now in the Q&A session. So those of you who want to ask question are very welcome. You can put your question in the comment box of this live streaming.
So yeah, maybe we will wait for the question. Please don't hesitate to ask any question if you want to. Okay. Maybe there's some of you want to ask a question.
Hold on, just wait a minute.
Well, while we wait for the question, may I know about you guys' feelings to be the presenter of today's podcast?
Of course, let's just say that being the first presenter of the day, especially the first presenter of such an event, is kind of, let's say, kind of nerve-wracking. especially for Rashid, since he's basically very new to this kind of thing. So yeah, it's kind of nerve-wracking, but it's once we finished the quote-unquote presentation, it's kind of refreshing too, you know. So it does have its own merits in some way.
So, personally, what do you think about this book for your own opinion?
Me or both of us?
You can do both for you too.
Personally, what I think about this book is that this book tells a really good depiction on what it truly means of the definition of the anti-slavery constitutionalism law in the United States of America, especially in the year of the 1800s and also the 1700s. Since, of course, as we all know, back at the time, America was a pretty divided country in terms of political understanding. And that's what I'm feeling. How about you?
Very interesting book.
Very interesting book.
I see.
Okay.
Okay, that's okay.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
there is also a question from Miss Wianda, Miss or Mr. Mr. Wiandra. The question is, why Americans back then to slavery, and what was their purpose?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question just a little bit?
So the question is, why Americans back then do slavery, and what was their purpose?
So, one of the main reasons on why back then the Americans were so keen on something that's called slavery is because it was basically inherited from their old colonizer, the Great Britain, the England people. As you can see, their own standards of living, the people of the Great Britain, the English people, are very, very similar to the Americans. In other words, they managed to imprint their own style of life into the Americans. As such, the lifestyle of having a slave is still very strong in the American community at the time. Such.
Yeah. So, well, that is the answer from Gazi. Is that clear enough, Mr. Wiandra? Well, we can take it as clear enough, right? And maybe for all of you who still want to ask a question, you can also chat on a comment section.
I'm still waiting for questions, so it's alright.
Well, I actually really still curious too about your both feeling and opinion about this book. Like, what is your favorite? What is your favorite part when you reading this book, and the things that make you like, oh, I just know these things.
And
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to know why you choose this book for
Yeah.
this podcast.
Alright. First, I'm just going to answer the question from Rachel on which part of is the most interesting. At least for me, the one part that I am very interested is the part where it talks about the something about the secession of the rights to the people who used to be slaves, because as we all know, slaves doesn't have any rights, and when those people stopped being slaves, all the humanitarian rights suddenly came to them. And back then it was a big problem. Why? Because of course they were pretty divided in terms of racial purity and racial terms. So yeah, it kind of makes an interesting
I see.
topic.
And by the way, there is also a question from, I'm so sorry, we can continue our conversation next,
okay,
but
it's
there
okay.
is also a question from Mr. Anton Tumbol, and the question is, does slavery include racism?
Oh, when we're talking about slavery, of course we're also talking about racism, because in majority of the cases, slavery is used against those of the so-called lower classes. At least that's what the people of the old world thinks. Take for example the people of America. They used to have slaves from the African continent, especially from the Senegalese. As such, yes, racism, I apologize, slavery is very linked, is very connected to what is called as racism.
see. I hope that the answer it will be clear enough. And there is also one left question, that is, to what extent has the Commerce Clause been used to expand federal power, and are there constitutional limits to its application?
When talking about things like that, it was basically about the politics of the old world, right? Let's just say that any and every single act that was done upon the Constitution will have a major effect on the political spectrum of said political movement. As such, we can't be so sure about whether it would be beneficial or not to the next act, because then again, it was very old and it's very obscure about on how law exactly works at the time, on how politics actually work at the time. So we can't give a very concrete information about that. However, I must say that again, any and every single changes adapted to the constitutionalism will have a major effect.
Can I ask one more question? Just a simple question.
Of course.
Why do you choose this book for this presentation?
The reason on why both of us chose this specific book for our presentation is because, well, as we all know, not all people is the same. All of us have a different history with each other. Take, for example, maybe the Africans. They had a different history with us. And the South Asians, the Japanese, and the Koreans, they have different history than us. And the thing is that slavery does not only correlates to the Africans, but it also correlates to even people from other nations. Take, for example, there is a case outside of America, especially in the early 1400s, where the Japanese people, especially the samurais, would sometimes take white people as slaves. Those are another cases of slavery where it doesn't correlate with the people of darker color, let's just say. And yeah, other than it was being very interesting topic to talk about, it also has a great deal of a history lesson behind it, and also an equally massive moral education on, is this the right thing to do? Is this the wrong thing to do? Am I doing the right thing? Am I sinning or anything like that? It's very interesting.
Okay, thank you, Gazi. And I think that's all from Book 1. I hope the presentation from Book 1 can be useful for all of us who are watching this podcast.
So, should we say goodbye to the audience, Alia?
I think we should say goodbye to the audience, Rahel.
So, okay, so that all from us as the today's host for today's podcast. I'm Rachel Valencia with my partner.
I am Alia Hadanisa Firdiani.
Goodbye, everyone. See you next time.
Jadi kali ini kita akan tanya jawab sama siswa-siswi berprestasi dari sekolah kita nih. Boleh kenalan dulu nggak sama penonton namanya siapa dan prestasi work?
Halo semua, kenalin nama aku Aidi Yakartisa. Dan kemarin itu aku dapet juara 2 lomba panjang di salah satu organisasi Bekasi.
Wih, gimana perasaannya setelah meraih juara tersebut?
Alhamdulillah kayak ngerasa seneng banget dan bangga sama diri aku sendiri.
Berapa lama nih persiapannya sama latihannya kira-kira kalau mau tahu?
Kalau nggak salah aku itu udah mulai latihan dari hari Selasa, jadi sekitar 4 hari.
Wah, keren juga ya. Sejak kapan kamu minat sama kegiatan ini?
Kalau buat kaligrafinya aku baru minat akhir-akhir ini, tapi kalau buat menggambarnya aku udah minat dari TK.
Masya Allah. Wow, that's great. That's really great. Kira-kira siapa nih yang memotivasi kamu untuk semangat dan siap mengikuti lomba ini?
Kalau yang motivasi aku itu sebenarnya diri aku sendiri, tapi aku dapat support dari keluarga aku.
Masya Allah. Ada prestasi lain nggak kira-kira yang perlu kamu raih selain prestasi ini?
Ada. Aku pernah lomba modeling dan aku juga pernah lomba menggambar.
Wih, keren juga ya. Kalau dapat kesempatan untuk lomba lagi nih, kira-kira mau ikut lagi nggak?
Pastinya mau.
Wih, terima kasih banyak setelah mengikuti tanya jawab dari kami. Terima kasih atas waktunya dan tetap dan terus semangat ya. boleh perkenalkan namanya siapa dan prestasi apa yang telah diraih? Halo semuanya, nama aku Kanista Dita. Aku mendapat penghargaan sebagai the Best Vice President of Finance dalam kompetisi Regional Student Competition. Keren banget. Gimana nih Kak, perasaan Kakak setelah meraih kejuaraan tersebut? Perasaan aku setelah memenangkan dan mendapat penghargaan dari dalam prestasi ini, aku senang banget karena perjuangan aku selama beberapa bulan terakhir itu akhirnya terbayarkan. Masya Allah. Berapa lama nih Kak persiapan sama latihannya kira-kira? Persiapan aku dalam mengikuti lomba ini itu sekitar 3-4 bulan. Lama juga ya Kak berarti ya? Iya betul. Kalau boleh tahu Kak, Kakak dari kapan nih minat sama kegiatan ini? Aku minat kegiatan ini itu dari 3-5 bulan sebelum lomba ini karena aku disosialisasikan oleh guru ekonomi. Wah, lama juga ya selama tadi latihannya ya. Kira-kira ada nggak Kak siapa atau apa yang memotivasi Kakak untuk semangat dan siap mengikuti lomba ini? Hal yang memotivasi aku itu yang pertama teman-teman aku.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Perkenalkan, saya Dr. Agus Rohiman MPD, Kepala SMA Plus PGRI Cibinong. SMA Plus PGRI Cibinong berdiri sejak tahun 1978 dengan 36 siswa. Dan memasuki tahun 2023, jumlah siswa di SMA Plus PGRI Cibinong sudah mencapai 1.898. Hal ini menjadikan SMA Plus PGRI Cibinong sebagai salah satu sekolah terbesar di Kabupaten Bogor. Dalam menjawab tantangan saat ini, SMA Plus PGRI Cibinong memiliki moto mendidik tiada henti dengan hati dan teknologi. Kita ketahui bersama perkembangan teknologi begitu luar biasa dan SMA Plus PGRI Cibinong senantiasa melakukan inovasi terus-menerus dengan mengedepankan etika dan cinta kasih. Nah, selain itu, SMA Plus PGRI Cibinong bukan hanya menyiapkan anak-anak yang ingin lulus perguruan tinggi negeri, tetapi kita juga menyiapkan mereka sebagai kader bangsa yang ditandai dengan 3 sifat kader bangsa. Nasionalisme sejati, kemudian cerdas, dan takwa. Kenapa kita memiliki keinginan yang besar seperti itu? Karena di tahun 2045, mereka inilah yang akan menempati posisi-posisi penting di negeri ini. Mereka lah yang ambil keputusan dan mereka lah yang ingin membawa negara ini menjadi negara diperhitungkan di dunia internasional. Demikian sekilas tentang SMA Plus PGRI Cibinong. Saya ingin menutup tayangan ini dengan sebuah jargon Kopassus SMA Plus PGRI Cibinong, kelompok siswa pembinaan khusus dalam bidang teknologi informasi. Tantangan memang luar biasa, tapi sukses bisa kami raih karena kami bukan orang rata-rata. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Nah, jadi kali ini kita akan tanya jawab sama siswa-siswi berprestasi dari sekolah kita nih. Boleh kenalan dulu nggak sama penonton namanya siapa dan prestasinya?
Halo semua, kenalin nama aku Aidi Bisa. Dan kemarin itu aku dapet juara 2 lomba panjang di salah satu organisasi Bekasi.
Wih, gimana perasaannya setelah meraih juara tersebut?
Alhamdulillah kayak ngerasa seneng banget dan bangga sama diri aku sendiri.
Berapa lama nih persiapannya sama latihannya kira-kira kalau gue tahu?
Kalau nggak salah aku itu udah mulai latihan dari hari Selasa, jadi sekitar 4 hari.
Wah, keren juga ya. Sejak kapan kamu minat sama kegiatan ini?
Kalau buat kaligrafinya aku baru minat akhir-akhir ini, tapi kalau buat menggambarnya aku udah minat dari TK.
Masya Allah. Wow, that's great. That's really great. Kira-kira siapa nih yang memotivasi kamu untuk semangat dan siap mengikuti lomba ini?
Kalau yang motivasi aku itu sebenarnya diri aku sendiri, tapi aku dapat support dari keluarga aku.
Masya Allah. Ada prestasi lain nggak kira-kira yang perlu kamu raih selain prestasi ini?
Ada. Aku pernah lomba modeling dan aku juga pernah lomba menggambar.
Wih, keren juga ya. Kalau dapat kesempatan untuk lomba lagi nih, kira-kira mau ikut lagi nggak?
Pastinya mau.
Wih, terima kasih banyak sudah mengikuti tanya jawab dari kami. Terima kasih atas waktunya dan tetap dan terus semangat ya.
Halo Kak,
Boleh boleh perkenalkan namanya siapa dan prestasi apa yang telah raih? Halo semuanya, nama aku Kanisa Edita. Aku mendapat penghargaan sebagai the Best Vice President of Finance dalam kompetisi Regional Student Competition. Keren banget. Gimana nih kak, perasaan kakak setelah meraih kejuaraan tersebut? Perasaan aku setelah memenangkan dan mendapat penghargaan dari dalam prestasi ini, aku senang banget karena perjuangan aku selama beberapa bulan terakhir itu akhirnya terbayarkan. Masya Allah. Berapa lama nih kak persiapan sama latihannya kira-kira? Persiapan aku dalam mengikuti lomba ini itu sekitar 3-4 bulan. Lama juga ya kak berarti ya? Iya betul. Kalau buat tahu kak, kakak dari kapan nih minat sama kegiatan ini? Aku minat kegiatan ini itu dari 3-5 bulan sebelum lomba ini karena aku disosialisasikan oleh guru ekonomi. Wah, lama juga ya selama tadi latihannya ya. Kira-kira ada nggak kak siapa atau apa yang memotivasi kakak untuk semangat dan siap mengikuti lomba ini? Hal yang memotivasi aku itu yang pertama teman-teman satu tim aku, dan kedua guru dan mentor-mentor yang membimbing aku selama persiapan lomba. Wow, very supportive. The teamwork, yes. Kakak ada prestasi lain nggak ya selain prestasi ini? Sebelumnya aku juga pernah memenangkan dan mendapat penghargaan dalam kompetisi lomba silat dan lomba poster nasional. Wow, that's amazing. Kalau dapat kesempatan untuk ikut lomba lagi, kira-kira kakak mau ikut nggak? Mau banget dong, karena dengan mengikuti lomba itu melatih kita untuk memiliki jiwa saling kompetitif. Wow, that was great. Thank you so much kakak for joining us today. Semangat terus ya kak. Terima kasih. Nah, kak boleh perkenalan dulu dan lomba apa yang kakak berhasil raih atau prestasinya?
Halo, nama aku Jawar dari Bangsa. Aku juara lomba dari Best Gamification Literation of Creativity yang diadakan oleh University.
Berarti ini berhubungan dengan IT ya kak ya?
Iya betul, berhubungan dengan IT.
Gimana nih kak perasaannya setelah meraih juara tersebut?
Kalau perasaannya setelah meraih juara tersebut sih senang ya tentunya ya, karena ini lomba yang benar-benar kita pengenin, kan berhubungan dengan IT dan game juga ya. Itu lomba passion aku.
Berarti senangnya dari passion akhirnya berpenghasilan?
Iya betul.
Berapa lama nih kak kalau boleh tahu persiapannya kira-kira?
Kalau persiapannya sih sekitaran 1 bulan ya, dari pembuatan desainnya, lalu perancangannya itu 1 bulanan. Terus setelah pengumuman finalisasi 10 besar, kita latihan presentasi karena kita mempresentasikan hasil karya rancangan game tersebut di sekitaran 1 bulan lah. Wah,
berarti itu termasuk cepat atau lama nih kak?
Kalau buat rancangan ini sih termasuk sedang-sedang lah.
Keren. Kakak udah dari kapan nih kak minat sama soal game dan pembuatan game begini kak?
Kalau pembuatan game sih dari kelas 2 SMP ya. Tapi kalau buat suka main game ini dari SD dan kecil emang udah suka main game. Terus mulai fokus ke pembuatan game itu dari SMA ini karena udah ada kapasitasnya nih untuk menuju pembelajaran gitu lah. Kayak kita udah ada tempat buat kita belajar pembuatan game ini.
Wah, keren banget ya, dari suka main game akhirnya bisa bikin game sendiri.
Iya.
Keren banget. Kira-kira siapa nih kak? Apakah ada siapa atau mungkin ada yang memotivasi kakak untuk semangat dan siap mengikuti lomba ini kak?
Yang pastinya sih orang tua ya, karena orang tua selalu support apapun yang aku pengen aku ikutin. Terus yang kedua ada teman-teman dari organisasi, ada khususnya di RPL sendiri, ada pembina RPL, ada dan Kader yang selalu support dan kasih masukan atas apapun yang aku lakuin. Ada teman-teman juga yang udah ngebantuin, terutama teman Kader itu udah ngebantuin membuat PT. Terus ada teman-teman dari kelas juga udah kasih support buat selalu maju ke depan, buat semangatin terus saat lomba, dan terkhususnya buat wali kelas ini udah selalu tanya saat lomba terus bagaimana hasilnya lancar atau enggak.
Wah, berarti banyak banget ya bantuan dan supportnya ya. Wah, jadi terharu deh. Kakak ada prestasi lain nggak selain prestasi dari lomba ini?
Kalau aku sih nggak tahu ya ini termasuk prestasi atau enggak. Tapi menurut aku, apapun hasilnya itu menurut aku prestasi. Aku salah satu siswa yang menjadi karya tulis yang terbaik di tahun 2022 dan menurut aku itu udah masuk sebuah prestasi.
Keren banget, karya tulis ilmiah di Pesat ya?
Iya.
Oke, terima kasih banyak kakak telah mengikuti sesi tanya jawab dari kami. Terima kasih atas waktunya dan semangat selalu ya kak.
Iya, selamat.
Kak, boleh kenalan dulu dan prestasi apa ya kak Rai?
Halo, perkenalkan nama saya Terimakasih. Saya meraih juara media di lomba LKBB Candu Nusantara, juara utama 1, dan juara umum di lomba LKBB Person.
Wih, keren ya, tepuk tangannya dong. Gimana nih kak perasaannya setelah meraih juara tersebut?
Tentunya bangga banget, senang juga bisa meraih ini ya, piala buat sekolah.
Yeay, selamat. Berapa lama nih kak persiapan sama latihannya?
Untuk persiapannya kita sekitar 2 minggu sebelum lombanya.
Berarti termasuk cepat ya?
Iya, karena itu infonya juga dadakan banget.
Keren tapi ya, akhirnya dapat juara ya, keren. Kakak minat kegiatan ini sejak kapan kak?
Kalau untuk saya sendiri minatnya dari SD dan difokuskannya baru pas SMP lomba-lomba gitu.
Wah, udah dari SD ya minatnya ya, keren. Dan sekarang alhamdulillah udah juara. Kira-kira ada apa atau sesuatu atau siapa gitu yang memotivasi kakak untuk semangat dan siap mengikuti lomba ini?
Tentunya dari Pembina Paskibra sendiri dan teman-teman juga udah nge-support, terus keluarga juga dan pasukan juga.
Wah, supportive banget, teamwork ya. Ada prestasi lain nggak kak yang pernah kakak raih?
Juara variasi formasi 1, terus juara kostum terbaik 1, dan juara pasukan terbaik 2.
Woi, banyak juga. Kalau misalnya dapat kesempatan untuk ikut lomba lagi, kira-kira kakak mau nggak?
Wah, gue mau dong, karena bisa bekerja sama dengan teman-teman yang asik banget dan seru banget juga.
Wow, terima kasih. Oke, thank you so much kakak telah mengikuti tanya jawab dari kami. Terima kasih waktunya dan tetap semangat ya kak.
Terima kasih.
Halo kakak, boleh perkenalkan namanya kak dan jelaskan prestasi yang kakak raih?
Nama aku Piazza Fauzia. Aku menang ke 2 Bangsa individual di Taekwondo Kota Edu. Oke, nama aku Tanang Putri. Aku juga menang dengan wali kota Depok.
Tepuk tangannya dulu dong guys. Gimana nih kak perasaannya?
Sebenarnya bisa lebih dapat pencapaian lagi di next. Aku juga senang sih dan bangga ya karena bisa dapat sesi itu. Tapi juga ada emailnya karena dia bisa dapat emas.
Semangat terus ya kak, dan udah keren banget itu loh kak. Berapa lama nih kak persiapan dan latihannya?
Kalau lebih 2 sampai.
Berarti lumayan lama ya?
Sama sih karena
Kalau boleh tahu, kakak udah minat sama kegiatan kakak ini tuh udah dari kapan kak?
kalau aku dari kelas 1 SMP sih. Kalau aku masih baru karena baru mulai pas awal SMA.
Oh berarti kakak dari 1 SMP kakak baru akhir-akhir ini ya berarti ya. Kira-kira siapa nih kak? Ada sesuatu kah atau siapa yang memotivasi kakak-kakak untuk semangat dan siap mengikuti lomba ini kak?
Pastinya keluarga aku yang support aku banget sih dari awal kegiatan dan juga teman-teman aku yang banyak berpas lagi. Yang paling utama
Mr. Dr. Agus Rohiman MPD, the Honorable Regular Principal of SMA Plus Pegari Cibinong, Mr. Dr. Iwan Sakraina STMSE, the Honorable of all of the beloved teachers and educators, and also we would like to greatly welcome to everyone who watches this podcast as our special guest. So, this is the show where we dive into the world of literature, exploring one book at a time. I'm your host Amira and my partner
Alika.
And whether you are a dedicated reader, a casual book lover, or someone looking for a next great read, you've come to the right place.
Today we take a closer look at book, unpacking its themes, analyzing its characters, and discussing the impact it has on readers. Today we have a fascinating book to talk about The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. And we're going to break it all down. Of course, we're not doing this alone. We have a fantastic guest joining us. Please welcome Jasmine and Zahra. Can you introduce yourself, what book you last read, and what interested you in reading this book?
Okay, so I think I'm gonna start from me. Hi, I'm Jasmine Chachandra and I'm from 11 Pioneer.
I'm Zahra from 11 Pioneer.
And we last read a book called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. And what interested us in reading this is to know how habits form and how habits could affect our daily life, both personally and professionally. And I think that's interesting, so that's why we both took the topic of this book.
Okay, so before we dive into the deeper analysis, let's start with the overview of the book that they have been read.
Okay, so this is actually also a part of the introduction. Charles Duhigg introduced the concept of habit loop, which consists of three components: cue, routine, and reward. He explains that understanding this loop is key to changing habits both individually and within organization. He uses the example of a man named Eugene who lost his memory but was still able to perform habits like brushing his teeth, buying a candy, showing how habits operate even without conscious awareness.
Okay, so what an interesting topic, me. So after you read the book, we're going to the most exciting part. It is the Q&A session. So for you guys who interested or maybe curious about this book, you could just type in the comment section below. I will choose the luckiest one to be asked to our beloved guest.
Okay, so since I already talked about the introduction, let's just go to chapter 1. The habit loop. This chapter goes deeper into how habits form, discusses the brain's role in habits creation, particularly the basal ganglia, which handles automatic behaviors. The habit loop is explained in detail, a study in which researchers demonstrated how new habits form in response to specific cues. The chapter concludes that once a habit is formed, the brain stops actively participating and the routine becomes automatic. Chapter 2. The craving brain. Craving are a powerful driver behind habit formation. Habits form not just because of the reward, but because of the craving for the reward. Like the story of how marketers at Pepsodent toothpaste use the concept of craving to create a routine, where the act of brushing teeth becomes associated with the craving for the clean feeling. Craving is essential to reinforcing habits. Chapter 3. The golden rule of habit change. The key principle for changing habits, replacing the routine while keeping the cue and reward the same. People can successfully alter deeply ingrained habits by introducing new behaviors that satisfy the same cravings, for example, alcoholics. Change is possible if individuals identify the cue and reward and work to alter the routine that follows. Chapter 4. Keystone Habits, or the Ballad of Paul O'Neill. The concept of keystone habits, which are small changes or habits that have a ripple effect, leading to larger, more significant change. Paul O'Neill leadership at Aloka, where O'Neill focused on safety as a keystone habit. Focusing on one important habit can transform other areas of life or business.
Chapter 5 is Starbucks and the Habit of Success. Charles Duhigg explores how Starbucks trained its employees to build habits around self-discipline and problem solving. This chapter tells how organizations can design habits to create consistent, successful outcomes that benefit employees from a habit-based training. Chapter 6 is The Power of a Crisis. This chapter describes how crises crises can often lead to dramatic habit changes in organizations and individuals. When faced with urgent challenges, people and companies can adopt new habits. Crises can force us to change and create a lasting transformation. Chapter 7 is how Target knows what you want before you do. Businesses use the science of habit and data analysis to influence consumer behavior. By understanding how habits are formed, companies can predict purchasing behaviors and shape shopping habits. This chapter explores the influence of habits on marketing and consumer psychology. Chapter 8 is Saddleback Charge and the Montgomery Bus Boycott. Social movements and how habits spread within communities. Communities like the Montgomery Bus Boycott or Saddleback Charge create a collective habit. When people are united by shared routines and beliefs, they can generate large-scale social change. And the last chapter is the neurology of free will. The final chapter discusses how we can take control of our habits and create lasting change. The science behind how habits are formed in our brains and how individuals can rewire their habits through conscious effort. It emphasizes personal empowerment and the importance of understanding our behavior patterns to reshape our lives.
And last but not least, the conclusion. The power of habit teaches us that habits shape much of our life, both personally and professionally. By using the principle outlined, we can reprogram our routine and create better outcomes in our personal life, workplace, and communities. Thank you.
Okay. What an interesting topic, guys. So after you presentate about every chapter of the book, we're going on to the most exciting and most final part. It is the Q&A session. So for you guys who are interested or maybe curious about this book or the chapter, you can just type the message in the comment section below and we'll choose the luckiest one to be asked to our special guest. Okay, so before we are looking on to this question, I want to ask a question myself. So my question is, if you had to describe this book in 3 words, what would you choose?
For me, this book is transformative, insightful, and practical.
Okay, what is it again?
Transformative, insightful, and practical.
Okay, really great. So, how about you? Do you have a question for them?
Okay, of course I have a question for Jasmine and Sandra. Okay, my question is, are you going to recommend this book to someone else? And to who is this book best suited?
Of course, I would recommend this book to someone else, and I think this book is well suited for the people that wanted to learn how habits work in our daily life and how it could affect, and just overall to understand ourselves better on why we do the things that we do and how we do things like sort of automatically. And for the people in mind, I would recommend this book for teenagers or maybe our fellow 11th graders that is interested into knowing themselves better and probably maybe also to improve their lifestyle on changing habits into a greater form.
Oh, okay. So, about changing habit, does this book also change your habit into the positive thing? I mean, like, do this book bring a positive impact to you and your mate, Zahra, maybe? And could you show us what's the example of it?
This book, I think this book more openly to change our perspective on things. It's like learning more about habits, like what I said before. It's like showing that habits can truly do shape how you live your life. For instance, like the example, if you drink alcohol, out of habit you will drink alcohol more and you became an alcoholic. So by doing things that we usually do or we do a lot, it's gonna change into a habit. So that's why by picking up great habits would also change how the way you live your life. Because if you choose like a different of a habit, it would change how you live your life. And yeah, I think that's how this book could affect people. I think it's about like perspective, and habits can definitely change you.
Okay. So now we have a question from the comment of YouTube live stream. It's from Evelina from 10 Pioneer 1. The question is the book telling us about a bad habit that we shouldn't do?
No, it's mostly like I said before. It's like change of it's like a perspective. It's more of a. I wouldn't say it's what we can't do in habits. It just shows how habits work and how habits form and how we could affect. So this book is not about what good or bad habits we should do. It's about how the habit itself works and the psychology of it.
Okay, thank you for the answer. So for Evalina, is it clear? Okay, well then I hope it's clear because we're going on to the next question. So the next question is from Zara from 10 Pioneer 1. So, how does understanding the habit loop help breaking bad habits or forming good ones?
Can you repeat that question?
Okay, so how does understanding the habit loop help in breaking bad habits or forming good ones?
Breaking bad habits into forming.
Yeah, like breaking your bad habits and forming a new good habits.
By practicing and understanding the habits that drive our daily actions, we can make intentional changes. Because this book shows how transforming habits can lead to improved productivity, better health, enhanced relationship, and even greater happiness by focusing on the cues and rewards that shape our behavior.
Yeah, so it's like you can break your bad habits by learning or shaping a new habit that is way healthier, that could be stronger if you do the good habits more than the bad one. Because by that, you would slowly forget your automatic brain response to the bad one and just go to the good one, and you could reshape that.
Okay, so for Zara, is it clear? And I hope it's clear. Oh yeah, and now we're finally going to the last question. So the last question is from
The last question is from Tito from 10 Pioneer 1. The question is, what are keystone habits and how did Paul O'Neill use them to transform alcohol?
To transform what?
Alcohol.
So, by the chapter that I said, Keystone of Habits, the concept, I'm gonna tell this again, the concept of keystone habits are small changes or habits that have a ripple effect leading to larger, more significant change. So it's like small habits that can affect the bigger picture. In this story, Paul O'Neill, where he focused on safety. So the situation is quite complex, but the main story is Paul O'Neill as a leadership at Aloka, where there's a problem occurring, and he focused on safety as a keystone habit. So as in like he prioritized the habits to keep him as safe as possible and away from danger, could save him from trouble. So it's like this small focus on safety as the main point or keystone as habit could save him in the bigger picture as his life. So like the small habits would really do affect the bigger picture.
Okay, thank you Jasmine for your last answer, and Tito, I hope you like the answer from Jasmine. So I'm sorry guys, but The time really flies. We're already in the end of today's episode. A huge thank you to Jasmine and Zara for sharing their thoughts and experience with us. This conversation has been truly insightful and inspiring us.
For those of you listening, we hope today's discussion sparked your curiosity and maybe even encourage you to pick up this book yourself. Don't forget to follow this podcast so you won't miss any upcoming episodes. Then, see you in the next episode, and remember,
Every page tells a story. Bye bye and see you soon in the next episode.
Jadi kali ini kita akan tanya jawab sama siswa-siswi berprestasi dari sekolah kita nih. Boleh kenalan dulu nggak sama penonton namanya siapa dan prestasinya?
Halo semua, kenalin nama aku Aidi Bisa. Dan kemarin itu aku dapet juara lomba panjang di salah satu organisasi Bekasi.
Wih, gimana perasaannya setelah meraih juara tersebut?
Alhamdulillah kayak ngerasa seneng banget dan bangga sama diri aku sendiri.
Berapa lama nih persiapannya sama latihannya kira-kira kalau gue tahu?
Kalau nggak salah aku itu udah mulai latihan dari hari Selasa, jadi sekitar 4 hari.
Wah, keren juga ya. Sejak kapan kamu minat sama kegiatan ini?
Kalau buat kaligrafinya aku baru minat akhir-akhir ini, tapi kalau buat menggambarnya aku udah minat dari TK.
Masya Allah. Wow, that's great. That's really great. Kira-kira siapa nih yang motivasi kamu untuk semangat dan siap mengikuti lomba ini?
Kalau yang motivasi aku itu sebenarnya tidak aku sendiri, tapi aku dapat support dari keluarga aku.
Masya Allah. Ada prestasi lain nggak kira-kira yang pernah kamu raih selain prestasi ini?
Ada. Aku pernah lomba modeling dan aku juga pernah lomba menggambar.
Wih, keren juga ya. Kalau dapat kesempatan untuk lomba lagi nih, kira-kira mau ikut lagi nggak?
Pastinya mau.
Wih, terima kasih banyak sudah mengikuti tanya jawab dari kami. Terima kasih atas waktunya dan tetap dan terus semangat ya. Halo Kak, boleh perkenalkan namanya siapa dan prestasi apa yang telah Kakak raih?
Halo semuanya, nama aku Kanisa Edita. Aku mendapat penghargaan sebagai the best vice president of finance dalam kompetisi regional student competition.
Keren banget. Gimana nih Kak, perasaan Kakak setelah meraih kejuaraan tersebut?
Perasaan aku setelah memenangkan dan mendapat penghargaan dari dalam prestasi ini, aku senang banget karena perjuangan aku selama beberapa bulan terakhir itu akhirnya terbayarkan.
Masya Allah. Berapa lama nih Kak persiapan sama latihannya kira-kira?
Persiapan aku dalam mengikuti lomba ini itu sekitar 3-4 bulan.
Lama juga ya Kak berarti ya?
Iya betul.
Kalau buat tahu Kak, Kakak dari kapan nih minat sama kegiatan ini?
Aku niat kegiatan ini itu dari 3-5 bulan sebelum lomba ini karena aku disosialisasikan oleh guru ekonomi.
Wah, lama juga ya selama tadi latihannya ya? Kira-kira ada nggak Kak siapa atau apa yang memotivasi Kakak untuk semangat dan siap mengikuti lomba ini?
Hal yang memotivasi aku itu yang pertama teman-teman satu tim aku, dan kedua guru dan mentor-mentor yang membimbing aku selama persiapan lomba.
Wow, very supportive. The teamwork, yes. Kakak ada prestasi lain nggak ya selain prestasi ini?
Sebelumnya aku juga pernah memenangkan dan mendapat penghargaan dalam kompetisi lomba silat dan lomba poster nasional.
Wow, that's amazing.
Kalau dapat kesempatan untuk ikut lomba lagi, kira-kira kakak mau ikut nggak?
Mau banget dong,
Karena dengan mengikut lomba itu melatih kita untuk memiliki jiwa saling kompetitif.
Wow, that was great. Thank you so much Kakak for joining us today. Semangat terus ya Kak.
Terima kasih.
Nah, Kak boleh perkenalan dulu dan lomba apa yang Kakak berhasil raih atau prestasinya?
Halo, nama aku Jawar dari Bangsa. Aku juara lomba dari best gamification of creative idea yang diadakan oleh University.
Berarti ini berhubungan dengan IT ya Kak ya?
Iya betul, berhubungan dengan IT.
Gimana nih Kak perasaannya setelah meraih juara tersebut?
Kalau perasaannya setelah meraih juara tersebut sih senang ya tentunya ya, karena ini lomba yang benar-benar kita pengenin, kan berhubungan dengan IT dan game juga, itu lomba passion aku banget.
Berarti senangnya dari passion akhirnya berpenghasilan?
Iya betul.
Berapa lama nih Kak kalau boleh tahu persiapannya kira-kira?
Kalau persiapannya sih sekitaran 1 bulan ya, dari pembuatan desainnya, lalu perancangannya itu 1 bulan. Terus setelah pengumuman finalisasi 10 besar, kita latihan presentasi karena kita mempresentasikan hasil karya rencana kita tersebut di sekitaran 1 bulan lah.
Wah, berarti itu termasuk cepat atau lama nih Kak?
Kalau buat rancangan ini sih termasuk sedang-sedang lah.
Keren. Kakak udah dari kapan nih Kak minat sama soal game dan pembuatan game begini Kak?
Kalau pembuatan game sih dari kelas 2 SMP ya. Tapi kalau buat suka main game ini dari SD dan kecil emang udah suka main game. Terus mulai fokus ke pembuatan game itu dari SMA ini karena udah ada bapak society jadi untuk menunjang pembelajaran gitu lah. Kayak kita udah ada tempat buat kita belajar pembuatan game ini.
Wah, keren banget ya, dari suka main game akhirnya bisa bikin game sendiri. Keren banget. Kira-kira siapa nih Kak? Apakah ada siapa atau mungkin ada yang memotivasi Kakak untuk semangat dan siap mengikuti lomba ini Kak?
Yang pastinya sih orang tua ya, karena orang tua selalu support apapun yang aku pengen aku ikutin. Terus yang kedua ada teman-teman dari organisasi, ada khususnya ada di RPL sendiri, ada pembina RPL, ada Pak yang selalu support dan kasih masukan atas apapun yang aku lakuin. Ada teman-teman juga yang udah membantuin, terutama teman Zida nih udah membantuin membuat PT.
Wabarakatuh. Good afternoon everyone. First of all, let us give thanks to God, who has given us all the blessing and health so that we can meet today's podcast. Let's also not forget the salawat and salam to our great Lord, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Before starting the program, it will be nice for me to introduce myself to all of you first. My name is Faris from 11 Pioneer, who will be the host for today's podcast with my partner.
I'm Rehan from 11 Pioneer, who will be hosting today's podcast as well.
To the Honorable the Principal of Senior High School of Plus PGRI Cibinong, to the Honorable English Teacher of Senior High School of Plus PGRI Cibinong, to the Honorable all teachers of Senior High School of Plus PGRI Cibinong, to the Honorable parents who are watching this podcast and beloved friends who are watching and participating in this podcast. Welcome back to Pesat Literation.
Hello everyone, back again on the Pesat Literation podcast show. How you are? Hope you are in happy state.
Before we start, do you all know what Pesat Literation is?
I don't think everyone knows what Pesat Literation is. Can you explain to the audience what is Pesat Literation is, Faris?
Of course, I will explain what Pesat Literation is to all of you. Pesat Literation is a podcast show about presenting a book that has been read by Senior High School of Plus PGRI Cibinong students. The book are varied, can be novels, education, sports, health, psychology, history, and much more.
That sounds very useful. I'm very curious about the book that will be presented by the group on today's podcast.
That's right, I'm very curious about that too.
Today's podcast starts with a presentation from Group 1. We will present a book they've titled Surrounded by Idiots.
So, without further ado, let's start today's podcast.
So, please welcome Group 1.
Okay, thank you for Faris and Raihan. But before that, hello everyone, my name is Marsha Farika and my partner,
Tarakanti Sekarayu.
Both of us will deliver to you a presentation about our literation, about psychological book called Surrounded by Idiots by Thomas Erickson. So without any further ado, let's just start to the next slide, shall we? Okay, so first, Tara, have you ever felt frustrated because someone didn't understand what do you mean, or do you have any difficulty to communicate with others?
I've been there and I've probably done that. And well, today we're going to introduce you or explain to you about this book, which is about the different types of personality and how we can communicate effectively with each of them.
Yeah, I think it's a really nice book because usually we assume that other and us think and communicate in the same way, but in fact they don't. And in this book, Thomas Erikson categorized personalities into 4 different colors. There is red for dominant, yellow for influential,
and green for steady,
and lastly is blue for compliant. Okay, now let's continue to the next slide. Will be explained by my friends.
Okay, so we have the red personality type, which is these people are natural leaders and they are decisive and ambitious and love challenges. However, sometimes they can be a little bit bossy, impatient, or too blunt, and they're probably short-tempered. And these types of people fits in a job which is like CEO, entrepreneurs, politician, military leaders, and etc.
Wow, that is so cool. Now let's continue to the next slide, which is the yellow personality, or as well known as the optimist. Yellow personality is well known for their energetic, creative, and also full of ideas. And not just that, but yellow personality is also great communicators, enthusiastic, and also highly persuasive. They can light up any room they enter without having any problems. So let's say that they are the social butterfly.
Yes.
But behind all of it, they also have a challenge. Like they can be disorganized, easily distracted, and also forgetful about everything. So if you have a friend that is have a full of ideas, but they forget something easily, they might be the yellow person. And the profession that might fit for the yellow person is marketing experts, entertainers, influencers, and also public speakers.
Okay, and then there's the green type personality, the peacemaker, which these types of people are great listener, patient, and dislike conflict. They prefer stability, routine, but they often struggle with making decisions. And if you have a friend that will always say, I don't mind when choosing a place to eat, they're probably green. So they're like people pleaser.
Yeah.
Okay, and these types of people fits in a profession like teacher, therapist, nurse, or social worker.
Alright, then let's continue to the last personality, which is the blue one, or the analyze. So, the blue types is usually logical, detail-oriented, and also analytical. They really value structure, accuracy, and smoothness. They really love structure and perfection, but can be sometimes too critical and make them inflexible. And some of them also struggle with their emotions, and they really hate something called sudden change. So they have to be in their plane. And the professions that might fit for them is scientists, engineers, accountants, and IT specialists.
Yes.
So, Tara, why do we misunderstand each other?
So why do we misunderstand each other is we assume other people. Sometimes we assume other things and communicate like us, leading to frustration. And communication happens on the listener terms. What we say isn't always what the others hear. And understanding personality types helps us avoiding misunderstanding or miscommunication. For example, a red boss giving a direct order may seem rude to a green employee who prefers gentle discussion. And a yellow salesperson might overwhelm a blue client with too much excitement and not enough details.
Okay, moving on to the next slide, how to adapt to different personality. For the red or the leader, be direct and result focused. Yellow, for the yellow one is to be enthusiastic and engaging. Green, the peacemaker, be patient and supportive. And lastly is for the blue, the analyze, is to be clear, logical, and precise. And for example, if you are a yellow person, you might need to be more structured when talking to a blue person. But if you are a red person, you might need to slow down and listen while dealing with a green person.
Yes.
Yes, and I think that's already the end of our presentation.
But before that, we have a quote from the famous writer itself, Thomas Edison, which is, the stronger your self-understanding is, the greater your probability of adapting to the people around you.
And that's all that we can tell you about this
Thank you, Book One. A very interesting book, right?
That's right. I want to read that book too.
So we finished watching Group One's presentations, but we're not done yet. After this, we will watch the second group performance, and there will be a question and answer session.
Yes, of course. So don't go anywhere. For all of you who are still curious about the contents of the book and wants to ask questions, you are very welcome to ask questions in the Q&A session.
And see you in the next session.
Jadi kali ini kita akan tanya jawab sama siswa-siswi berprestasi dari sekolah kita nih. Boleh kenalan dulu nggak sama penonton namanya siapa dan prestasinya? Asma, kenalin nama aku Aidi.
Itu baca yang merah.
And as I mentioned earlier, we are now in the Q&A session. So those of you who want to ask questions are very welcome. You can put your question in the comment box of this lesson.
Okay, from Edu Group 1, I have a question. Why do you choose this book for your Pesat Literation?
Okay, so I will answer it because I choose this book because I find the title itself interesting, and I also interested in learning about personality of people. So that's why we chose this book. It's from Tara.
For me, well, maybe I want to say like her because I want to understand people more, and I want to understand them maybe a little bit better and try to fit with people more easily, maybe by learning it from a book, maybe self-improvement.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Okay, and we have the question. How does one enter and accomplish a competition?
Sorry, can you repeat?
How does one enter and accomplish a competition? How does one enter and accomplish a competition?
What does the competition?
Yeah. What kind of? I'm sorry, but we didn't get the question.
Okay, and another question. Okay, I have another question. Can you tell me about specific examples of how habit loop principles can be used to drive positive change in a community of organization?
What habit can change?
About specific examples of how habit loop principles can be used to drive positive change in a community or organization.
Okay, so you mean like how can these materials can be positive in real life?
Yeah.
Okay, so in my opinion, if you
answer. We have another question.
And the next question is from Aliva and Nisrina. Can you guys recommend hobbies for people with those different personalities?
For new personality, I think it's best that maybe something that's more like complicated and observing stuff, like reading books. That's reading books, and maybe coding, and something that has to do with kind of difficult
Analyzing. It will be good for the blue personality as well. For the green personalities, you can try to join a social event or something like that.
organization.
Yeah, it will make you better than for the red personalities. I think I would recommend to join an organization such as Scouts or any other organizations. Because it's really good to improve your leaderships.
Yes, because they're the leader.
Yes.
Okay, that's all.
That's all.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And the last question is, do you think bad habits define a person?
Do you think bad habits define?
Person? I don't think so, because we can really say that blue personality is bad, red personality is bad, because it's not, we can say it's bad, it's more like difference, this difference. Every human is unique, so everyone has their own uniqueness, including their personalities. So we can say that, oh, you're bad because you're a blue personality.
Just so you know that people can have more than, one personality. This is more like a stereotype thing. So we can have like multiple personality. Like maybe we can be red and blue at the same time. So it doesn't really define us.
Yeah.
So like that's all from us.
Okay, and I have one question again. What is the golden rule of habit change, and how can it help individuals alter their habits?
And then what? Sorry.
What is the golden rule of habit change, and how can it help individuals alter after their habits?
Golden rules. What is the golden rule of habit change? Well, hold on. Let me think about it.
You mean like changing their personality?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we don't have to change our personality, because personality is like ourself, so we don't have to change it, but we just need to understand each other more. So I don't really think that we should change our personality.
No, we don't need to, because just be yourself.
Yeah, just be yourself, but don't make the others feel like disgust or something to you.
Yeah, or uncomfortable.
Yeah, so I think just be balanced between being yourself and behaving to other people.
Yeah.
That's it from me.
Okay, thank you, Group 1.
I think that's all from Group 1. I hope the presentation from Group 1 can be useful for all of who are watching this podcast.
Okay, that's all from us as the host today podcast. I am Faris and with my partner
Royhan.
Goodbye everyone. See you next time. Thank you.
Jadi kali ini kita akan tanya jawab sama siswa-siswi berprestasi dari sekolah kita nih. Boleh kenalan dulu nggak sama penonton namanya siapa dan prestasi work?
Semua kenalin, nama aku Aji Lisa. Dan kemarin itu aku dapet juara 2 lomba panjang di salah satu organisasi Bekasi.
Wih, gimana perasaannya setelah meraih juara tersebut?
Alhamdulillah kayak ngerasa seneng banget dan bangga sama diri aku sendiri.
Berapa lama nih persiapannya sama latihannya kira-kira kalau gue tahu?
Kalau nggak salah aku itu udah mulai latihan dari hari Selasa, jadi sekitar 4 hari.
Wah, keren juga ya. Sejak kapan kamu minat sama kegiatan ini?
Kalau buat kaligrafinya aku baru minat akhir-akhir ini, tapi kalau buat menggambarnya aku udah minat dari TK.
Masya Allah. Wow, that's great. That's really great. Kira-kira siapa nih yang memotivasi kamu untuk semangat dan siap mengikuti lomba ini?
Kalau yang motivasi aku itu sebenarnya tidak aku sendiri, tapi aku dapat support dari keluarga aku.
Masya Allah. Ada prestasi lain nggak kira-kira yang perlu kamu raih selain prestasi ini?
Ada. Aku pernah lomba modeling dan aku juga pernah lomba menggambar.
Wih, keren juga ya. Kalau dapat kesempatan untuk lomba lagi nih, kira-kira mau ikut lagi nggak?
Pastinya mau.
Wih, terima kasih banyak sudah mengikuti tanya jawab dari kami. Terima kasih atas waktunya dan tetap dan terus semangat ya.
Terima kasih.
Halo Kak, boleh perkenalkan namanya siapa dan prestasi apa yang telah diraih?
Halo semuanya, nama aku Kader. Aku mendapat penghargaan sebagai the Best Vice President of Finance dalam kompetisi Regional Student Competition.
Keren banget. Gimana nih Kak, perasaan Kakak setelah meraih kejuaraan tersebut?
Perasaan aku setelah memenangkan dan mendapat penghargaan dari dalam prestasi ini, aku senang banget karena perjuangan aku selama beberapa bulan terakhir itu akhirnya terbayarkan.
Masya Allah. Berapa lama nih Kak persiapan sama latihannya kira-kira?
Persiapan aku dalam mengikuti lomba ini itu sekitar 3-4 bulan.
Lama juga ya Kak berarti ya?
Iya betul.
Kalau boleh tahu Kak, Kakak dari kapan nih minat sama kegiatan ini?
Aku minat kegiatan ini itu dari 3-5 bulan sebelum lomba ini karena aku disosialisasikan oleh guru ekonomi.
Wah, lama juga ya saat selama tadi latihannya ya? Kira-kira ada nggak Kak siapa atau apa yang memotivasi Kakak untuk semangat dan siap mengikuti lomba ini?
Hal yang memotivasi aku itu yang pertama teman-teman satu tim aku, dan kedua guru dan mentor-mentor yang membimbing aku selama persiapan lomba.
Wow, very supportive. The teamwork, yes. Kakak ada prestasi lain nggak ya selain prestasi ini?
Sebelumnya aku juga pernah memenangkan dan mendapat penghargaan dalam kompetisi lomba silat dan lomba poster nasional.
Wow, that's amazing.
Kalau dapat kesempatan untuk ikut lomba lagi, kira-kira kakak mau ikut nggak?
Mau banget dong,
Karena dengan ikut lomba itu melatih kita untuk memiliki jiwa saling kompetitif.
Wow, that was great. Thank you so much Kakak for joining us today. Semangat terus ya Kak.
Terima kasih.
Nah, Kak boleh perkenalan dulu dan lomba apa yang Kakak berhasil raih atau prestasinya?
Halo, nama aku Jawar dari Bangsa. Aku juara lomba dari Best Gamification Session of Creative Idea yang diadakan oleh University.
Berarti ini berhubungan dengan IT ya Kak ya?
Iya betul, berhubungan dengan IT.
Gimana nih Kak perasaannya setelah meraih juara tersebut?
Kalau perasaannya setelah meraih juara tersebut sih senang ya tentunya ya, karena ini lomba yang benar-benar kita pengenin, berhubungan dengan IT dan game juga, itu lomba passion aku lah.
Berarti senangnya dari passion akhirnya berpenghasilan?
Iya betul.
Berapa lama nih Kak kalau boleh tahu persiapannya kira-kira?
Kalau persiapannya sih sekitaran 1 bulan ya, dari pembuatan desainnya, lalu perancangannya itu 1 bulanan. Terus setelah pengumuman finalisasi 10 besar, kita latihan presentasi karena kita mempresentasikan hasil karya rencana game tersebut di sekitaran 1 bulan lah.
Wah, berarti itu termasuk cepat atau lama nih Kak?
Kalau buat rancangan ini sih termasuk sedang-sedang lah.
Keren. Kakak udah dari kapan nih kak minat sama soal game dan pembuatan game begini kak?
Kalau pembuatan gamenya sih dari kelas 2 SMP ya. Tapi kalau buat suka main game itu dari SD dan kecil emang udah suka main game. Terus mulai fokus ke pembuatan game itu udah dari SMA ini karena udah ada kapasitasnya nih untuk menuju pembelajaran gitu lah. Kayak kita udah ada tempat buat kita belajar pembuatan game ini.
Wah, keren banget ya, dari suka main game akhirnya bisa bikin game sendiri. Keren banget. Kira-kira siapa nih kak? Apakah ada siapa atau mungkin ada yang memotivasi kakak untuk semangat dan siap mengikuti lomba ini kak?
Yang pastinya sih orang tua ya, karena orang tua selalu support apapun yang aku pengen aku ikutin. Terus yang kedua ada teman-teman dari organisasi, ada khususnya di RPL sendiri ada pembina RPL, ada Pak yang selalu support dan kasih masukan atas apapun yang aku lakuin. Ada teman-teman juga yang udah ngebantuin, terutama teman Zidar itu udah ngebantuin membuat PT. Terus ada teman-teman dari kelas juga udah kasih support buat selalu maju ke depan, buat semangatnya terus saat lomba, dan khususnya buat wali kelas ini udah selalu tanya saat lomba terus bagaimana hasilnya lancar atau enggak.
Wah, berarti banyak banget ya bantuan dan supportnya ya. Wah, jadi terharu deh. Kakak ada prestasi lain nggak selain prestasi dari lomba ini?
Kalau aku sih nggak tahu ya ini termasuk prestasi atau enggak. Tapi menurut aku apapun hasilnya itu menurut aku prestasi. Aku salah satu siswa yang menjadi karya tulis yang terbaik di tahun 2022, dan menurut aku itu udah masuk sebuah prestasi.
Keren banget, karya tulis ilmiah di pusat ya?
Iya.
Oke, terima kasih banyak kakak telah mengikuti sesi tanya jawab dari kami. Terima kasih atas waktunya dan semangat selalu ya kak.
Iya, selamat.
Kak, boleh kenalan dulu dan prestasi apa ya kak Rai?
Halo, perkenalkan nama saya Terimakasih. Saya meraih juara media di lomba LKBB Candu Nusantara, juara utama 1, dan juara umum di lomba LKBB Person.
Wih, keren ya, tepuk tangannya dong. Gimana nih kak perasaannya setelah meraih juara tersebut?
Tentunya bangga banget, senang juga bisa meraih ini ya, piala buat sekolah.
Yeay, selamat. Berapa lama nih kak persiapan sama latihannya?
Untuk persiapannya kita sekitar 2 minggu sebelum lomba.
Berarti termasuk cepat ya?
Iya, karena itu infonya juga dadakan banget.
Keren tapi ya, akhirnya dapat juara ya, keren. Kakak minat kegiatan ini sejak kapan kak?
Kalau untuk saya sendiri minatnya dari SD dan difokuskannya baru pas SMP lomba-lomba gitu.
Wah, udah dari SD ya minatnya ya, keren. Dan sekarang alhamdulillah udah juara. Kira-kira ada apa atau sesuatu atau siapa gitu yang memotivasi kakak untuk semangat dan siap mengikuti lomba ini?
Tentunya dari pembina paskibra sendiri dan teman-teman juga udah nge-support, terus keluarga juga dan pasukan juga.
Wah, supportive banget, teamwork ya. Ada prestasi lain nggak kak yang pernah kakak raih?
Juara variasi formasi 1, terus juara kostum terbaik 1, dan juara pasukan terbaik 2.
Woi, banyak juga. Kalau misalnya dapat kesempatan untuk ikut lomba lagi, kira-kira kakak mau nggak?
Wah, gue mau dong, karena bisa bekerja sama dengan teman-teman yang asik banget dan seru banget juga.
Wow, terima kasih. Oke, thank you so much kakak telah mengikuti tanya jawab dari kami. Terima kasih waktunya dan tetap semangat ya kak.
Terima kasih.
Halo kakak, boleh perkenalkan namanya kak dan jelaskan prestasi.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon everyone.
And I'm Rafael Oswald Tarigan.
And my name is Evan Brenda Raffi.
And we are the master ceremony of this podcast. So, talking about this Pesat Literation podcast, I want to ask you about your opinion on the previous podcast, Marsha and her. How was it?
Okay, I think it's very important to us as students to knowing about psychological thing, right?
Right, because psychological things is related to mental health, and we need to pay attention to our mental health too. But I think we should move on from Marsha and Tara because we are going to listen to Alifa and Nisrina. So, without any further ado, Nisrina, Alifa, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you for also Evan. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi guys, how do you do? Hope you're all fine. We're from 11 Pioneer. I am Alifa Putri Jakami and this is my friend
Nisrina Elvina Zalia.
So now we're going to present our book review with the title
The Four Agreements.
So let us check it out. So, have you ever felt trapped by self-doubt, negativity, or limiting beliefs? Or have you ever wished for a way to live with more peace, confidence, and authenticity? The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz offers a powerful guide to personal freedom, drawing from ancient Toltec wisdom. The Toltecs were a civilization in Mexico known for their deep spiritual knowledge and teachings. Their wisdom as shared in this book isn't about strict rules but about practical ways to free ourselves from unnecessary suffering and live with a true joy. This book introduces 4 key principles, simply and profound, that can transform the way we think, speak, and act. So let us explore them together. Next slide, please. So, what is the Four Agreements? The Four Agreements is a self-help book inspired by ancient Toltec teachings. It serves as a guide to breaking self-limiting beliefs and achieving true personal freedom. Many of us unknowingly live according to a set of agreements, unspoken rules we have accepted from society, family, or past experiences. These agreements often lead to stress, self-doubt, and unhappiness. Don Miguel Ruiz suggests that by replacing these harmful agreement with 4 empowering ones, we can break free from negativity and live with clarity, love, and joy. Unlike abstract philosophy, this book provides practical principles that can be applied every day to bring change to our lives. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
Okay, the first agreement is be impeccable with your word. This means speaking with honesty, integrity, and kindness, both to ourselves and to others. Words have immense power. They can inspire, heal, and uplift, or they can wound, deceive, and destroy. Many of us underestimate the impact of our words. Gossips, self-criticism, and careless speech can create unnecessary suffering. As Don Miguel Ruiz said, your word is the power that you have to create. Imagine how our relationship would improve if we always spoke with kindness and truth. When we say what we mean, avoid gossip, and stop negative self-talk, we became a source of positivity and transformation for ourselves and those around us. Example, think about a time when someone's words deeply hurt you. Now think about a time when words encourage and or uplift you. Our words shaped our reality, so let us use them wisely. Next slide, please. The second agreement is don't take anything personally. This is a tough one because we are naturally wired to react emotionally. However, Ruiz explained that what people say and do is more about them, their beliefs, fear, and experiences than about us. When people criticize us or treat us unfairly, we often assume it's because we are flawed or not good enough. But in reality, people's actions reflect their own inner world. By not taking things personally, we can free ourselves from unnecessary emotion, pain, and regain control over our happiness. Example, imagine someone cuts you off in traffic and yells at you. It's easy to take it personally and react with anger. But what if that person was just having a terrible day? Maybe they received bad news or they were distracted by stress. Their reaction was about them, not you. When we stop taking things personally, we protect our peace and avoid being controlled by others' opinion and emotions.
So for the next slide, there is the third agreement, or don't make assumptions.
Have you ever misinterpreted a situation and later realized you were completely wrong? Assumption leads to misunderstanding, insincerity, and even conflict. Instead of assuming, we should ask questions and communicate clearly. How often do we assume someone is upset with us when they are just having a bad day, or assume we know what someone is thinking without actually asking? So by seeking clarity instead of jumping to conclusion, we can prevent conflict and build stronger relationships. For an example, think about a time when you assumed someone was mad at you, but later found out that they were just busy or preoccupied. How much stress could you have avoided by simply asking? Instead of assuming, let's choose to communicate with honesty and curiosity. So for the next slide, for the last thing is the fourth agreement, or always do your best. This doesn't mean striving for perfection. Instead, it means giving your best effort in every moment, while recognizing that your best will vary depending on circumstances. Some days, our best will be highly productive and energetic. Other days, our best might mean simply getting through a difficult moment with grace. What matters is that we show up and give what we can without self-judgment. For the example, imagine an athlete who gives their best effort in every game. Even if they don't always win, they know that what matters is not perfection but an effort. The same applies to our daily lives, whether in work, relationships, or personal growth. So by doing our best, we avoid regret, guilt, and self-criticism. Instead, we cultivate self-respect and inner peace.
Next slide, please. When we apply these 4 agreements in our daily lives, we break free from self-limiting beliefs. Instead of being ruled by fear, doubt, and negativity, we cultivate self-love, resilience, and inner peace. These agreements are more than just concepts. They are tools for transformation. They guide us towards living authentically and joyfully. Example, think of someone you admire who embodies these principles. Maybe they communicate with honesty, don't get easily offended, and ask questions instead of assuming, and last but not least, always give their best. What impact does that kind of mindset have on their lives? By committing these agreements, we too can experience this kind of freedom. Next slide, please. The 4 agreements has been widely praised for its simplicity and wisdom. It has changed the lives of millions, including celebrities, thought leaders, and everyday readers. However, some critics argue that these principles are too idealistic. They say it's not always possible to avoid taking things personally or to be impeccable with your words. While this may be true, the goal is not perfection, it's progress. Even small changes in how we think and behave can lead to profound results. The book's influence continues today with follow-up works like the 5th Agreement, which expands on this teaching and introduces a new perspective on self-awareness.
Okay, so for the last part, for the next slide, so there is conclusion. So in summary, the 4 agreements teaches us to first be impeccable with your word. That means speak with integrity and kindness. Second, don't take anything personally. Free yourself from other judgment. Third, don't make assumptions. Communicate clearly to avoid misunderstanding. And the last is always do your best. That means we should give our best effort in every moment.
These principles may be simple, but their impact is life-changing. By embracing these agreements, we open the door to a new way of living, one filled with freedom, joy, and self-awareness. It's a journey, not a destination. The more we practice, the more we transform our lives for the better. So, I leave you with this question. Which agreement will you start applying today?
Wow, that's a great one.
Oh, it was a great podcast, but I think I still got a little bit confused for, such things. How about you?
Yeah, me neither.
Same, right? So, if you guys if you guys still don't know or don't understand about some parts, we give you the opportunities to ask in the comment section below. So just write the just write your question and we will write it for you, and Nisrina and Alifa will answer your question. So the Q&A session has begun.
Before we go on to the audience question, I want to ask you something. Alifa and Nisrina, why do you choose this book? You want to ask something? Okay.
You first. Okay. I'll answer for the both of us. So we think that this book is really inspiring and really unique. It talks about the 4 agreements about us in daily lives and how inspiring it is for other people too.
There's so much 4 points. Yeah, there are 4 points that can make us motivated by that points. So that we can make self-improvement from that point.
Maybe I will ask more since the audience didn't give you the question. Alright, from me is who wrote the 4 agreement and what is the philosophical foundation about it?
Okay. The book was written by Domingo Ruiz and is based on the wisdom of the Toltecs, an ancient Mexican civilization known for their spiritual teachings. Is it?
Okay.
Well, I don't think the audience still asking some questions. Should we add more?
Yeah, maybe.
One more, okay?
I want to ask you about how, in your opinion, both, how do these agreements can help in a daily life?
Okay, let me answer the question. They improve communication, reduce emotional suffering, strengthen relationship, and promote self-awareness, leading to a more peaceful and fulfilling lives.
Okay.
Are you satisfied with the answer?
I'm satisfied.
I guess we are. So, I think that's already enough for the podcast today. What a great podcast for today. I think Alifa and Nisrina are really, really good at delivering the topics and answering the questions. How about you?
Yeah, I'm agree. But I think our time is over now. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast today. Thank you for listening, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Is it finished?
Jadi kali ini kita akan tanya jawab sama siswa-siswi berprestasi dari sekolah kita nih. Boleh kenalan dulu nggak sama penonton namanya siapa dan prestasinya?
Halo semua, kenalin nama aku Aidi Bisa. Dan kemarin itu aku dapet juara 2 lomba panjang di salah satu organisasi Bekasi.
Wih, gimana perasaannya setelah meraih juara tersebut?
Alhamdulillah kayak ngerasa seneng banget dan bangga sama diri aku sendiri.
Berapa lama nih persiapannya sama latihannya kira-kira kalau gue tahu?
Kalau nggak salah aku itu udah mulai latihan dari hari Selasa, jadi sekitar 4 hari.
Wah, keren juga ya. Sejak kapan kamu minat sama kegiatan ini?
Kalau buat kaligrafinya aku baru minat akhir-akhir ini, tapi kalau buat menggambarnya aku udah minat dari TK.
Masya Allah. Wow, that's great. That's really great. Kira-kira siapa nih yang motivasi kamu untuk semangat dan siap mengikuti lomba ini?
Kalau yang motivasi aku itu sebenarnya tidak aku sendiri, tapi aku dapat support dari keluarga.
Masya Allah. Ada prestasi lain nggak kira-kira yang perlu kamu raih selain prestasi ini?
Ada. Aku pernah lomba modeling dan aku juga pernah lomba menggambar.
Wih, keren juga ya. Kalau dapat kesempatan untuk lomba lagi nih, kira-kira mau ikut lagi nggak?
Pastinya mau.
Wih, terima kasih banyak sudah mengikuti tanya jawab dari kami. Terima kasih atas waktunya dan tetap dan terus semangat ya.
Terima kasih.
Halo Kak, boleh perkenalkan namanya siapa dan prestasi apa yang telah diraih?
Halo semuanya, nama aku Pesat Edu. Aku mendapat penghargaan sebagai the Best Vice President of Finance dalam kompetisi Regional Student Competition.
Keren banget. Gimana nih Kak, perasaan Kakak setelah meraih kejuaraan tersebut?
perasaan aku setelah memenangkan dan mendapat penghargaan dari dalam prestasi ini, aku senang banget karena perjuangan aku selama beberapa bulan terakhir itu akhirnya terbayarkan.
Masya Allah. Berapa lama nih Kak persiapan sama latihannya kira-kira?
Persiapan aku dalam mengikuti lomba ini itu sekitar 3-4 bulan.
Lama juga ya Kak berarti ya?
Iya betul.
Kalau boleh tahu Kak, Kakak dari kapan nih minat sama kegiatan ini?
Aku minat kegiatan ini itu dari 3-5 bulan sebelum lomba ini karena aku disosialisasikan oleh guru ekonomi.
Wah, lama juga ya, sangat lama tadi latihannya ya. Kira-kira ada nggak Kak siapa atau apa yang memotivasi Kakak untuk semangat dan siap mengikuti lomba ini?
Hal yang memotivasi aku itu yang pertama teman-teman satu tim aku, dan kedua guru dan mentor-mentor yang membimbing aku selama persiapan lomba.
Wow, very supportive. The teamwork, yes. Kakak ada prestasi lain nggak ya selain prestasi ini?
Sebelumnya aku juga pernah memenangkan dan mendapat penghargaan dalam kompetisi lomba silat dan lomba poster nasional.
Wow, that's amazing.
Kalau dapat kesempatan untuk ikut lomba lagi, kira-kira kakak mau ikut nggak?
Mau banget dong, karena dengan ikut lomba itu melatih kita untuk memiliki jiwa saling
kompetitif.
Wow, that was great. Thank you so much Kakak for joining us today. Semangat terus ya Kak.
Terima kasih.
Nah, Kak boleh perkenalan dulu dan lomba apa yang Kakak berhasil raih atau prestasinya?
Halo, nama aku Jawar dari Bangsa. Aku juara lomba dari Best Gamification of Creative Idea yang diadakan oleh University.
Berarti ini berhubungan dengan IT ya Kak ya?
Iya betul, berhubungan dengan IT.
Gimana nih Kak perasaannya setelah meraih juara tersebut?
Kalau perasaannya setelah meraih juara tersebut sih senang ya tentunya ya, karena ini lomba yang benar-benar kita pengenin, kan berhubungan dengan IT dan game juga, itu lomba passion aku banget.
Berarti senangnya dari passion akhirnya berpenghasilan?
Iya betul.